question related to that. When it comes to success measurements, from your perspective, what should a successful Made in Canada open banking implementation look like?
I don't have a specific answer to that, Mahi. All I would say is that we have got the ability. If I was to look forward, why don't I look just a little over the horizon, and the dream that I've had is that I think Canada as a nation tends to be quite trusted around the world. Whether or not we always deserve that trust is a separate issue. I think we do, but I'm quite biased. But Canada is trusted. I look at it and say our banks, you know, I know it's not relevant today necessarily, but our banks performed very well 14 years ago in the financial crisis. The world is changing very rapidly. We can't rely on that anymore, but it's part of our brand. I look at it and say, I would love to see our banks pairing up with fintech organizations in an open banking system that allows us to actually start to bank the world more than we do, to deliver financial services globally more than we do. Because I think we have the opportunity, based on if we have strong privacy legislation and have a strong digital banking system, to earn the trust of a lot of folks that would like to do business with us. So for me, that's the dream I have. We should keep aiming at that point, because if we cannot get into the business of exporting intangibles, exporting our knowledge and our capabilities and our brand, and earning income from that, we'll never replace the resource revenue, the primary industry revenue that has been the backbone of our economy for so long, that is diminishing in its ability to contribute over the next decade. So we've got to find a way to use our brains versus just our resources.
Senator Deacon, when it comes to open banking, we can get everything right, you know, in terms of system design, implementation, and governance. But without incentives, massive and sustained adoption, Canadian consumers and business won't reap the full rewards that come along with open banking. Banks may see open banking as just another regulatory checkbox exercise. Consumers may be fearful about, you know, their data being exposed to third-party partners, etc. And all that begs the question of how to drive adoption. In the UK, a use case that was very helpful in helping drive adoption is the tax authority's decision to allow tax bills to be settled using open banking payments. What is your take on implementing a similar use case in Canada, and perhaps more broadly, what concrete measures should be implemented early on to help drive adoption of open banking?
That last use case you mentioned just runs close to home for me. One of my family members more than 2 years ago, paid their tax bill on time. It was never attributed to their account. And still 2 years late, more than 2 years later, still fighting with the CRA to have the penalties reversed from their error that were charged to the taxpayer. I mean, so that's a use case that's got great value. Look, I look at it very simply, that what will drive adoption is the value that consumers get from some of these financial technologies. The Rent Advantage program I heard last week, Andrew at Borrowell was talking about the Rent Advantage program they put in place that allows renters to improve their credit scores by paying their rent monthly. Phenomenal for new Canadians, for marginalized Canadians, phenomenal change that allows them to improve their credit score by living. By paying their rent. That access to the tools to improve your credit score have not been as diverse as they need to be. That program was overwhelmed within days of being launched, with people wanting to join in. Now, because we don't have open banking, and because the banks are regularly breaking the screen scraping access for fintechs, this has turned out to be a real challenge to implement, as I understand it. But the reality is, once consumers get data portability rights, once consumers have the right to access their data, and the systems exist to allow safe, secure access to those data, the types of use cases won't need government or anybody else to worry about adoption. The use cases will drive adoption.